very good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Revved Up. Now tonight I'm super excited because then we get to find out how old you actually are. Now if you're watching tonight's episode with your parents who probably are in their 60s, you realize they're having a grin on their faces, mainly because it is a car of their time. If you're in your 30s, you might know what tonight's show is all about, but I don't think you have all the facts. My friend, if you're 18 and below, you're probably watching the wrong episode, because today we go back and back in time. We also take you in the future to show you a futuristic car, and of course talk about safety, because that's the most important thing on Revved Up. My name is Andrew Kabuura. Let's drive into tonight's episode.
On this edition of Revved Up,
Right, a whole new week and a whole new component of your car takes center stage. Welcome to Car Care, and again welcome to a Toyota Servicing Center, where we make sure again we pay more attention to the smallest of details on your car. Now this week I actually did receive an email that has the most basic discussion point, and I say the most basic discussion point because everyone knows what this is and everyone knows what these do, but we know a couple of basics. We are talking lights on your car. As always, Fitsum joins me for this very week. Fitsum, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure having you on the show. Look, we all know these are lights. Everyone has lights on their cars. But one of the bigger questions I really would want to ask is, which lights do we need when? Because there seems to be too much confusion, which has led to so many accidents on the road. Which lights do we need when?
When? Good question. Let me start with the simplest one, parking lights. When do you need a parking light? You will put parking lights on when you want to be seen.
Yes.
You can stop the vehicle, you can put the headlights off. With the parking lights, anybody from a distance will be able to see that there is a car around. Okay? Then we go to the headlights, low beam. Headlights, low beam means you're using your vehicle in a place whereby you don't need a lot of lights, okay?
That is low beam.
Low beam. Like for example, in town, you must be on low beam. But you will see some guys are on high beam in town. Is that okay? Is that okay for you if you're driving against that person? Exactly, it gives you a lot of light. So then you have the third one, which is high beam. High beam basically is for highway, when you want to see very far. But make sure that there is no other vehicle in front of you. Yeah. Otherwise you'll be giving them too much reflection, and those guys will not be safe on the road. Okay? They will be dazzled and they might not see where they are driving to.
Yeah.
Okay? Then the other light that you have is the fog lights. Of course, fog lights are used during foggy situations whereby you want to be seen and you want to have a better visibility.
And of course, the most basic is watch out for your lights when you park and leave your car. If you leave those lights on, it's going to affect your battery. That is the reason some cars actually don't start in the morning. Seems very basic, but trust me, lights are pretty much everything in your car. Thank you very much, Fitsum.
Thank you very much.
It's down to safety, it's down to making sure your battery works well, and it's also down to making sure you watch out for the rest of the drivers that you find on those roads. Have those lights on, know where you're going, but also put the right lights on at the right time. Right, Fitsum?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Honda has been rather quiet when it comes to the car of the future, but the recent reveal in Frankfurt of the new Honda Urban EV has shown that they've actually been creating something special in secret. It's definitely a small car, almost toy-like in its proportions, but it has a unique charm with its emotive face and rounded headlights that make it seem sentient and alive. In fact, that's the aim for this vehicle, as its developers are working on a service called the Honda Automated Network Assistant, which actually detects the driver's emotions behind the judgments that they make and learns from it. Inside, The lack of buttons, knobs and dials means that this car operates largely on spoken commands. Immediately noticeable are the conjoined sofa-like seats for the driver and passenger, as well as the enormous instrument screens spanning the dashboard. The rear view mirrors have been done away with, of course, and replaced by video feed on screens. There's room for 4 people in this little electric vehicle, and the doors open backwards, just like a Rolls-Royce. Another interesting feature are the screens located between the front and rear headlights, which let other drivers know your battery status, in case you're in a hurry to charge your vehicle. Admittedly, this car is not as spectacular as some of the other brands' ideas of futuristic vehicles, but it is undeniably charming, adorable, and stylish. The Honda Urban EV may be the start of Honda's answer to electrical vehicles, and may even rival Tesla one day. It'll be released for production in Europe in 2019, and hopefully Honda will be able to transfer some of the magic to the production vehicle that made the concept one so great.
Now, in 1946, a businessman called Ben Paul was in Wolfsburg. The reason he was there, really, was to look for Type 1s for import back to the Netherlands. Now, in Volkswagen language, when we talk about Type 1, we're talking about the Beetle. So he had gone there to look for Beetles to import back to the Netherlands, only for him to see an improvised parts mover that quite interested him, and he felt more could be done with that very mover. The mover I'm talking about was that. So what he did was sat in a corner, got himself a pen and a piece of paper. There were pens in 46, right? Yeah, there were pens in 46. So he got a pen and wrote down and jotted a little design here and there and took it to Volkswagen. Now, Volkswagen did not give him all the attention at the very beginning, mainly because their production line was still busy with the Type 1s, that is the Beetle. But later on, they gave him the attention, and that attention got us this. Now, the attention that got us the Kombi did not only stay in Wolfsburg or in Germany, it went across Europe. So there was more competition later on. You heard about the Citroen vans, which of course were produced until 1981. But the biggest competition and attention did seem to come in from Japan. That is why after some time, you had cars like the Nissan Caravan, you had cars like the Subaru Samba. All I'm saying is that the car industry in the 70s had entered a time where competition was going to be rough. Now, the Kombi was so defining of the 70s that one of the biggest counterculture movements, also known as the hippies, attached themselves to the car. Now, the hippies was a group of mainly a young generation of folks in the 60s, 70s, mainly in America and the UK as well, who came up and said, you know what, we are really against the materialistic side of what life really has to offer. It was actually so popular with the hippies that it was called the hippie van. But hey, if you don't call it the hippie van, calm down. It was also nicknamed the bread loaf. And I think it's not hard to find out why, because it kind of looks like bread. So for now, let's take that quick break. When we come back on Red Review, we shall be breaking more bread. All right, so we are inside the Kombi now. Let's first get a few things out of the way. If you're expecting automatic AC, Bluetooth, fancy leather seats, a beautiful and shouting dashboard, I think you're watching the wrong episode tonight. But also, if you're expecting a car that just spells a little luxury from the old days, a car that spells simplicity on the inside, welcome aboard. Now, first of all, when you get into this car, the first thing that really shouts at you is the big Volkswagen badge. Right in front, of the passenger, and this is what their glove box actually looked like. There isn't too much space on the inside, but well, I'm thinking you didn't have much to carry then that probably would not fit anywhere else in the car. Let me see. It's got a couple of CDs in there. Oh, there you go. It's been watching Revved Up. It's a good man, this one. All right, the glove box aside, you move on with the dash. But like I said, it's super simple that you probably will start doubting your ancestors, wondering why would you guys drive cars that pretty much did not have anything to them. You had, of course, the original radio. This is not the original radio because you had to improve this one because the car is still very, very much operational. Like we shall confirm to you later on how fast it can actually get on the road. Then you've got your handbrake in there. You've seen these handbrakes. You pull and twist and then... Wait. You take it back like that. Gear lever is one of the things that really define a Kombi or any of the cars from those generations. Super long. And this is, by the way, an original one in there. So the owner of this car has done very, very well to make sure it sticks in there. But one of the bigger questions everyone has always asked is how comfortable they are inside in relation to the new generation cars. And then one of the things you've got to focus on then is the AC, because you want your windows up, in jam, you want to play your music, so you want absolutely no disturbance from the outside. This too had AC. Its AC is not as automatic as the AC we have in the cars these days, because it's pretty much get it through the air that goes through the engine, which is right behind there. So it's either warm or cool. You need to know that there were no powered steering wheels. For example, the days that the Kombi was out, or the days the Kombi was getting all the headlines. So you've got a steering gear here, which pretty much makes it easy for you to maneuver and, turn this around. You've seen folks in big trailers and lorries, biting the teeth and doing this whole thing. Well, just to make it very simple for you, you have a steering gear in here, which should make you move around comfortably. How simplistic was this car? You've got your indicators here, look. Then you've got your windshield wipers in here. Very, very simple as well. What the old school cars really focused on was simplicity. I don't know how many times we're going to say this on the show. This is how simple they were. If you want to put on your hazards, or like I've said before on this show, what most Ugandans will call double indicators, it was as simple as that. See that? If you wanted your headlights, pretty much the same up at this side. You pull and the headlights will be on. Everything was super basic. Now, it's a 7-seater, and that's before you even talk about the driver. And 7-seaters is the factory settings. You and I know we actually can have more folks than those. Oh, one thing I forgot. If someone is in the road and you want them out of the road, sounds different, doesn't it? All right, now finding any of these old classic cars anywhere on the African continent is harder than you actually think. But luckily for us here at Revved Up, we did find a man who's not just had this T2, this Kombi, this super old car. He's also had a very other big collection. You've actually seen him on Revved Up before with the 67 Beetle, Edgar Katamujuna. Edgar, once again, man, thank you very, very much. Always a pleasure having you on the show. I think, let me start off with a basic question before we even go to the Kombi. What's your collection like? What does it look like? Which other cars do you have?
Well, I have 4 Beetles and 4 Kombis. Most of the Beetles are still, under restoration, and 2 of the other Kombis are still under restoration. Yeah.
And you're doing this for business now, but the big question always should be, the getting them back was that passion, or the getting them back was a plan to do business later in the future?
No, it wasn't a plan to do business. I got it because I got the Beetle first, the 67, because I love the Beetle. Yeah. All the way from nursery school. Yeah. So as I drove around, people kept asking, can you do my giveaway? Can you be there at my wedding with your car? So I thought, why not? Why not collect them and, make people happy?
Yeah, is the interesting thing. Every time you find these old classic cars, some people struggle to repair them, some people struggle to bring them back into life. You've brought this one into life, and I can see a few things that you've added to this car, but most of that stuff is actually super original. I mean, we've talked about how much of a character these old school cars had. For example, look at its lights. We've just been talking about its eyebrows. Yeah. This is original, isn't it?
Yeah, it's original.
This is the factory setting from it. But if you come up here for its heart, that was metallic, Edgar. That was metallic. That's
it's
different.
Not a heart, actually. It's an exterior sun visor. It's supposed to be metallic, with some holes, but then they're expensive to import. So I decided to make my own locally, just like a basket. I just went and weaved, some wire stuff, and it looks like the original.
Nah, it doesn't look. It just has better character. It doesn't look like the original.
Yeah, looks much better.
But let's talk about the restoring of these cars. This very Kombi, how much have you had to put in terms of get it back on the road, and how much does it still own its original character?
They use the word stock. Everything is original. I haven't changed anything. I haven't tried to put sport trims and all that. I haven't changed anything. As in how much I've put, I can't put a figure to it.
Yeah, but you can put a figure to how much you could sell it if you had to sell it today.
Yeah, but
we'll let it slide through for now.
Yeah, you let that one slide.
And you're taking this now for functions. People hire you for weddings. I guess it's that old school character they still have. So you could go to your wedding, which is super cool when you're having a vintage feel to it, driving in a Kombi with your bride right next to you. Hey, should be a good plan, eh? I'm coming to you very, very soon. Okay. All right, so let's take this old Kombi on a road now and see what it actually feels like. First of all, you're not going to drive it super fast. It's not like any of these cars that are new generation on those roads that you're going to push all over the place, because it needs to be kept gentle, my friend. It needs to be kept gentle. Actually, we shall be falling in trouble. Now, first of all, and please on tonight's show, don't act super shocked, because you've been watching most of the new generation cars on Revved Up. This car, the Kombi, a T2, has got 70 for its horsepower. So not too much power it's got in there, but then again, look at its age and look at for what exactly it was used for. You'll find that very fine. It's got a 1500cc in there, and that is specifically for this one, because you had those that have 1600, 1700, 1800, actually it goes until 20. It's a car that did not have airbags, which is a very big negative to most of the folks today, because you want to make sure you're very safe wherever you're driving a car like this one. But if it is also a car that maybe hits 0 to 100 in about what? 4 minutes, very slow, then however much airbags are needed, you get to think you're pretty safe on the road, because everything is driven at your own speed. Hey, did it just open? Actually, the drivers from those days, the old folks you meet today, will tell you these cars were so personal, because everything is manual. If you're going to change your gears, if you're going to have your lights on, if you're going to have your handbrake in there, if you're going to have your radio playing, if you're going to have your AC, everything is very manual. So it feels super personal to actually drive this very car. So when you talk about it being very slow and being very manual on the inside, you actually get a personal feeling. All right, so we've talked about the steering gear. This is the steering gear. What it really does is, like we said before, they weren't electronic, steering wheels, powered steering wheels then. So this should be helping you. I'm sure you've seen this on a couple of very big trucks out there. So you hold this, use one hand, and then easily move all over the place. So when I see the young kids today talk about having had swag, yeah, I'm sure your grandfathers are looking at you and saying, son, that was invented a couple of years ago, a couple of decades ago. You're just doing a remix with your whole swag words. This is where it all started, man. Look. Use your left hand to wave at whoever is... Oh, did we open again? It keeps opening. All right, there you go. We've just arrived from 1977. The owner, Edgar, has also been complaining since we parked, because he says, I've mishandled his car. He says, I don't know how to drive his car. He says, I've been putting so much pressure on gear one. And because her name is Zolia, he's been super dramatic. He says, every time I put more pressure on gear one, Zolia was screaming, Daddy, Andrew's being rough. Well, I'm done. I'm done, Zolia. Calm down. I'm done driving this car because I want to come back to the future. We've had too much of 1977. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us tonight. Always a pleasure having you for an audience. Do remember, check out our social media and website. That is our Facebook page and official website for all the details. Any of the shows you probably have missed in the past, or any of the quizzes you probably want to answer, feel very free. Join us on social media. Stay safe on those roads. This is Revved Up. My name is Andrew Kabuura. Good night.
Next week on Revved Up.